It could be because you are trying too hard to make the relationship everything that you want it to be. So when you're trying to figure out why your relationships are one-sided or so one-sided, it could be the fact that you just, or the possibility that you want that relationship to be so much more than it really is. You may want it to succeed so badly that you overdo it. You overdo it. And here's the problem with that. When you overdo it, when you overdo the affection, you overdo the love, you overdo giving this person all this attention. When you overdo that, especially earlier on in your relationship, you make the other person feel as though they don't have to do anything. They don't have to put in any work. They don't have to try. You're just going to show them all the love. You're going to show them all the affection. And they can just sit back and take it all in. And so what ends up happening is, if you have someone who would have actually shared in the responsibility of the relationship equally, as far as affection and the time that you both spend together and arranging dates with each other and making plans and all those things, all the things that you normally do within a relationship. Now they don't do that stuff because they know that you're going to handle it. So one of the big issues you may be having, and why so many of your relationships tend to be so one-sided, could be because you start those relationships off earlier on with this idea of an ideal relationship, with this idea of, I want this to be the perfect relationship. I want this to be how I see it in my mind. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make this relationship that way. So I'm going to give this person all the love, all the attention, everything. And so by so doing that so early on in your interaction with this person, or in your relationship with this person, you end up making the other person feel as though they don't have to do anything. And a relationship is work. It's work. And the only way it really works is if the both of you are putting in an equal amount of effort into it. So that could be one of the things that you're doing. So that could be an area that you're going wrong and why you keep finding yourself in relationships that are one-sided. Now, this can end up actually becoming a problem that just keeps almost feeding on itself, in that, okay, you get into a relationship and you give too much, you put too much into it, and the other person gets lazy, doesn't do much. But eventually what happens? They get bored with it. You're not much of a challenge. You're not much of a, maybe you become a bit too needy, a bit too clingy, and so they let you go. Or they use you on the side, find somebody else. And so you kind of become almost like a weird kind of side relationship for them. So you go through this experience, and then you get into the next relationship thinking, okay, well, look at everything that happened with the previous relationship. I'm not going to let that happen again. So I'm going to double down even more. Maybe I didn't give this person enough love. Maybe I didn't give this person enough affection. This is the previous relationship that you were in. And so you think to yourself, okay, well, I'm going to give my next partner even more. So you get into that next relationship and you repeat the same mistakes, but you double down on it. You do it even more, thinking that by doing it even more, now you're going to succeed. Now you're going to get to where you want to get to in a relationship. But the problem with that is you've created the same problem over again. So that's why I say it almost becomes like something that feeds on itself. with each and every relationship you get into, you feel like you need to do more because the last one failed, so maybe you weren't giving the person enough. So there's that. And there's also a situation where you may get to a point where, okay, you've been in all these relationships and they've been one-sided and you haven't gotten the fulfillment that you needed out of them. You tried so hard. Why do people do you like this? You put your heart and soul in your relationships. Why do they end up cheating on you or using you or leaving you or disrespecting you or abusing you verbally or mentally or what have you? So you say, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to give the way I used to give. And so you end up getting into a relationship where you start becoming a lot more cautious with all that. So you're like, I've made all these mistakes in the past. I'm giving so much love, so much affection, and all I've gotten back has been users, abusers, time wasters. Okay, I'm not doing that anymore. So what you then do is you retreat initially. You become, you're very cautious when you get into your next relationship. So you try not to give much of anything. You want them to do the work. But here's the problem with that. Being that innately you're used to giving, innately you're used to being this overly giving, or you want that ideal relationship, and so because you want that ideal relationship so much, you give more than you should. You may be able to go for a little stretch of time or a decent stretch of time not being as giving in your new relationship because you've learned from the past and you don't want to make those mistakes again. So what may happen when you get into that new relationship is you take that step back and the person is giving, but what will happen now is perhaps you get to a point where they're giving, they're trying, but I'm not quite where I want to be in this relationship. I feel like we could be further along. I feel like they could give even more. And so what happens then is that strategy you had of, okay, I'm not going to be giving with this new relationship because I've gotten messed up in the past. People have taken advantage of me. That breaks because the ideal relationship that you have in your mind, you want to get to it so badly that you don't give this new relationship in which you're trying to be more strict, trying to be more contained with how much affection and love that you give. It breaks, that strategy breaks because you just want to get to that ideal relationship that you picture so much in your mind, that you want so badly in your mind. So then you take over. And even though this other person was giving, even though this other person was doing what they were supposed to do, perhaps they were not doing it at the pace or the speed that you wanted because you want to get to that ideal relationship so badly. But that partner probably would have gotten there, but you just wanted to get there quicker. So you broke and you started giving in the hopes that, okay, well, it looks like this person has been giving, so now that I'm taking over and I'm giving even more, hopefully they'll pick up on that and they'll match my energy level. They'll match what I'm trying to do. But what often happens in a situation like that is you mess with the dynamic of the relationship. You go from allowing the person to do most of the giving to now overtaking it. And that can be a jar. Like, that can be jarring to the person. It can make them feel almost like, well, who am I dealing with here? Who is this person? Why is this person all of a sudden overdoing or suddenly taking over as far as affection and love and attention and working hard on the relationship? And what that can end up doing is it can actually end up pushing that person away because now you're going against the grain. You're going against what the flow of the relationship had been up until that point. Because this other person may have been giving more to you, yes, because you were being more strict with your affection, but in the back of their minds, they may have been thinking, well, you just need some time. You just need some time to open up more, and then you become more giving to them. So this other person may have been taking the lead in being giving because in the back of their mind, they were hoping that at some point, once you got more comfortable with them, you would start giving more. But giving more in the sense that the both of you have an equal amount of giving. But now that you've taken over, because you have this ideal picture of what the kind of relationship that you want to be in, and you just want to get there, you just want to get there so badly, which is one of the reasons why you'd be so overly given in your previous relationships. Now you've become impatient and you've taken over. You've not allowed that relationship, the new relationship that you're into, to get to where it's going in a natural way. You've now turned off the person who was giving to you, the person who was showing you much more positive results than your previous relationships were, because you were taking a step back and allowing them to lead in that sense. So what ends up happening is the person feels like the relationship is now doesn't feel like it's flowing in a natural way. You've just gone from 30% to 110%, and they back off. They start freaking out. They start thinking, what's happening? Why is this person being so overly giving me more attention than I'm used to? Are they expecting this from me right now, when in fact I have been going at this at a pace that I thought the relationship was moving at, on more of a natural pace? Are they going to expect me to match? Are you going to expect this person now to match that level of giving when they're not actually ready to do something like that? Not that they would never have gotten there, but they're not there yet. So what ends up happening is this person starts becoming more distant. They worry about being around you because now they're like, you're going to expect them to be this energetic, to be this giving, just the way you've now turned out to be after going from 30%. Now you're at 110%. So what ends up happening is the relationship starts becoming strained and eventually fizzles out. If you're having a constant pattern of being in relationships that are one-sided, one of the best ways to try to overcome this issue is, first and foremost, quit with this idea of what you believe an ideal relationship is, because that's more than likely what you're pursuing. That's more than likely what you want. Every relationship is going to have its own, they will have their own dynamics, and to have a picture of where you want your relationship to be in your mind can be very dangerous, because then you will start doing certain things to push your relationship in the direction that you hope will lead it to that ideal relationship. And that's very dangerous, because that's where you start scaring your partner. That's where you start causing, either you scare your partner, or you'd be in a situation where your partner just becomes complacent, right? Like the previous examples where you give so much, they end up deciding, I don't have to do anything anyway, so forget it. I'll just sit back. Meanwhile, you're thinking, I'm pushing this relationship to the ideal one, but why isn't this other person responding in kind? And you try, and then ultimately that relationship ends. Just basically what you've been going through in the past, in your past relationships. So you've got to take out the whole ideal picture of what an ideal relationship is to you. Take that out of your mind completely. Allow your mind to be open to wherever this relationship leads, because every relationship is different in its own way. It's not necessarily going to go where your mind is wanting it to go. Whatever ideal that you have, perhaps you've been influenced by relationships you've seen around you, by stories you've read, what you've seen in pop culture, whatever it may be, try not to allow that to get in the way of your relationship. Try to understand that you have to approach every relationship that you're in, and hopefully the next one is the best one for you, in a way that's open, in a way that understands that you don't know where this relationship is heading. You don't know how it's going to turn out, but you're willing to put in an equal amount of effort. Emphasis here on equal. You cannot allow yourself to be putting in more effort than your partner, especially when you're putting in 80% and you're putting in 20%. The more 50-50 it is, the better. So you put in an equal amount of effort, and take this ideal picture, or this mindset of what the ideal picture of a relationship, or the perfect relationship is. Take that out and just allow this relationship to lead wherever it's going to go. And as long as the both of you are put in positive energy, put in equal effort into the relationship, spending quality time with each other, respecting each other, then the relationship will naturally lead to wherever it leads. And what you may discover is, if you just let that happen, the relationship could get to a point where you you reach a different ideal that you hadn't even pictured in your mind, and yet that ideal is actually the best one for you. It's the one that works the most.